the first look at the outcomes of the 2024 Innovation Workshop, GPAI Innovation Workshop. That was hosted in Paris by the GPAI Expertise Support Center a few weeks ago. But first, a few like notes on GPAI's mission in general, our role as GPAI Expert Support Centers, and also we'll talk a bit more about the methodology used in those innovation workshops. So, as you probably know, the Global Partnership on AI is a partnership like regrouping now 44 countries, new to this morning, around the idea of developing and using responsible AI for the benefits of all, so and grounded in human rights, inclusion, diversity, innovation, and economical growth. So this partnership was funded in June 2020 and by the initiative of Canada and France, and is currently under the chair of India. So this is this was intended to be like an agile partnership and long-term initiative to identify AI-related priorities the members, so the countries, have, and how can we use a multi-stakeholder approach to address those issues using responsible AI. The membership of GPAI is meant to be inclusive and now covers, as I mentioned, 44 countries and on 6 different continents, and is so with the creation of the partnership in itself, 2 expertise centers were created at the time, and now being joined by Tokyo, who added a 3rd expertise center last December and officially announced a few days ago, so congratulations for that. And so the 3 experts support center work with a group of around 150 international experts coming from various backgrounds, from industry, academia, civil society, international organizations, and is supported and are integrated within the OECD in a new partnership.
Yes, so to explain a bit really the role of the ESCs and their network, you will see here in a nutshell on the slides the role of the OECD, who really gathers the political side, so with the ministerial committee and an executive committee, and also now the expert community. And the expertise support centers really feed the expertise, whereas the OECD gives the political impetus. The ESCs, to do so, have carry practical projects and also lead initiatives. So yeah, our role is really to support a continuum of projects, because yeah, in order to meet the ambition of international AI governance, there needs to be, of course, a consensus on standards that are measurable and applicable. However, the efficiency and the legitimacy of this political conversion also depends on the members' capacity to apprehend the technologies and their implications. And since there are many actors and many challenges, it is really a big challenge. In order to master it, it requires a large and inclusive commitment of civil society, scientists, and the industry, and also down the road a large dissemination. So we, as ESCs, we want to create those ecosystems in order to serve the cooperation. So our aim is really to have a large diversity of actors present from all over the world, but also from all sectors, so be it law, engineers, etc. So that we can really feed the thoughts and have many opinions in order to contribute at our level to the guidelines and standards that the members want to put in place.
So it's now we just opened a new chapter in GPAI, but to take a look back at the last 4 years and what the expert support centers have delivered. So we've engaged with a total of 237 experts over the last 4 years, as I mentioned, coming from various backgrounds. And we supported like 72 different deliverables within GPAI that are all available and were created with the intention of supporting like the needs of the members. We've also hosted 2 innovation workshops that we're going to be talking about that led to 15 different applied initiatives. In the process and the efforts to be more inclusive, we've also added 55 self-nominated experts through a selection process that helps bring balance in terms of gender, of expertise, and also in terms of geographical representation to the community of experts. We've developed 12 external partnerships to support different GPAI projects. And in terms of visibility, we've also organized 10 webinars, including 1 town hall that was requested by the members after the rapid rise of generative AI. So to help members understand what are the implications of this new technology and how should they be addressing the issues regarding Gen AI. We've also helped either like organize or help organize the 4th annual GPAI Summit in Montreal, Paris, Tokyo, and Delhi. And in those partnerships, we've also managed to put 3.8 million euros in the projects to help them scale up and get a broader impact. Also, I mean, we've discussed we've presented the experts had an opportunity to talk about the different GPAI outputs in 20, even probably more international conferences over the last 4 years. So to talk a bit about the current projects, the 2024 projects of GPAI. So as you know, up till now, the different projects were divided, and experts were divided in 4 different working groups. 2 of them were supported by the Montreal Center of Expertise, and the other 2 were supported by the Paris Center of Expertise. So we're going to briefly present the current projects, but just to give you a bit of an idea of an overview of the projects currently happening within GPAI. So do you want to start, Caitlin?
Sure. So I'll start with the Future of Work working group, which is one of the 2 working groups that has historically been a part of the Paris Expert Support Center at INRIA in France. The other one being innovation and commercialization. So with the Future of Work working group, it's the working group who has the most projects. So a very active group who is been working hard for the last 3 years. So for the first one, empower AI workers. Their goal is to support and empower workers thanks to AI tools created in the workshops. This is based off of the fact that generative AI is transforming the workplaces. Furthermore, their goals are to provide an in-depth analysis and understand AI role in the workers' jobs and use social media to share about various AI tools and their potential benefits. The next one, of course, is then AI for Fair Work. In April, May 2023, they did a field test, or field work rather, with Sama in East Africa, studying the conditions facing workers who annotate the data that is used to use in training AI systems. They continue to do fieldwork, and their expected project results are to study and help identify both fair and unfair labor practices, underscoring various fair work practices. Impact of generative models in the labor market in South America. This is a project that is in partnership with the University of Buenos Aires, and it's a research project hoping to be able to contribute a greater understanding of the social implications of AI and inform discussions on how to ensure the benefits and the widespread, that the benefits of AI are widespread and inclusive. AI literacy for factory workers. This is co-led by Shadrach, who is here today, and Maya Sherman, who is also present here with us today, both based out of India. The project aims to develop and implement AI literacy curriculum for workers in the SME sector and create awareness to be better prepared for the future of work. The big unknown, also related to generative AI and the future of work, who remain notably absent from the global AI governance dialogue. The goal is to assess the potential augmentative effects of generative AI technology in the core diagnostic tasks of general practitioners and nurse practitioners. And finally, 6, generative AI and the future of work dialogue, perceptions, and prospects. So the goal here is to collect evidence and highlight the most emerging impacts of generative AI and workers. We also have a joint project between the Future of Work and the Innovation and Commercialization Working Group, which has historically been part of the Future of Work and then recently, as of this year, joined the Innovation and Commercialization Working Group. The CAS Responsible AI Design Framework aims to have 3 fundamental use cases: AI-based product solution, conceptualization and design, identification of responsible AI factors and best practices for specific products, and an evaluation of AI-based products and solutions. Then going to the INC side, the 4 projects, 2 of which have been ongoing for the last 3 years, so some of the oldest projects historically. The broad adoption of AI by SMEs. When the Innovation and Commercialization Working Group was created, the experts more or less said to themselves that the focus should be on SMEs. So it is a working group that has always kept SMEs in mind, and the first one is a testimony of that. The goal is to, has been to create a portal, which was created by AI Singapore, a public company in Singapore, to help SMEs who are AI curious with various levels of AI readiness adopt AI solutions. So it's kind of a platform to connect both AI solutions and SMEs who are curious about AI. And this is going to be adopted between all of the members, hopefully. So far, there are 4 members who have adopted this portal, with 2 who are in progress of adopting. The next one is protecting AI innovation and intellectual property. So IP obviously being a huge topic when we're talking about AI. The project has evolved over the course of the past several years, especially with the rise of generative AI. And we've hosted various webinars focusing on data sharing and data scraping. The third one is a project that was created based off of the first project. So adopting that portal that I just mentioned, specifically to address issues in the agricultural and farming sector and how various countries are approaching AI solutions for the agricultural and farming sector, which has been an increasing topic in GPAI in the last several years. I know here in India as well, it's been a focus. And finally, boosting innovation while regulating AI. Of course, you can't talk about AI without regulation. So, yeah. And finally, we have a Future of Work side session, should you be interested, in this room, co-led by Shadrach here with us today. It's at 4:30. So if you're interested more in learning about Future of Work, please don't hesitate to come by this room at 4:30. Thank you. Matthew.
So rapidly on the other 2 working groups. So in Responsible AI, we're currently working on a social media governance project, which is about, it's an ongoing project which is about good practices and guidance regarding social media, which also contributed to some article of the drafting of the EU AI Act. So we're very proud to have participated in that and contributed in the drafting of this legislation. The Responsible AI Strategy for the Environment is also an ongoing project. So it's almost a program, I would say, where we started by making 48 recommendations about how AI could be used responsibly to support the fight against climate change. So there's a lot of different potential initiatives in that project. So and we're starting to implement them one by one. And so we also have a project that for which the report will be coming out in the next weeks, about creating a systemic gender inclusion in the AI ecosystem, because we know there's a big gender imbalance in the AI industry. So we're going to come out with clear recommendations of how policymakers and governments can support to balance that gender gap. The Scaling Responsible AI Solution is also an ongoing project that is almost a program where we identify different impactful initiative and in the sphere of responsible AI solutions that would benefit from being scaled up or being so that they can reach a broader impact and could also be replicated in other countries. We have this year we've started on this specific project. We've started also an African track. So we have two separate tracks running at the same time, one global track and one African track, which had a lot of traction this year. So we're very satisfied in that. And the fifth project on the Responsible AI Working Group is a digital ecosystem. So how can we build a digital ecosystem needed to be able to adopt AI responsibly, but also to use the tools provided by the international AI community to different countries to be able to use them within their own countries and to build their own AI ecosystems. In the data governance working group, we have two ongoing projects. So from co-generated data to so how can we create a governance model to help co-generate data. So it's really around building a governance structure around the generation of data for different AI models. And also an important one, the role of government as provider of data for AI, for which we have 7 ongoing initiatives with different GPAI governments to see how the governments can provide data to their own AI ecosystems. And finally, we have a joint project from the two working groups on algorithmic transparency, which is really about good practices to reduce that black box aspect of the developing algorithms. Yes. So, innovation workshop. So, the idea of creating like a forum where members, so representatives from governments could exchange directly with experts emerged actually when we were organizing the first summit in 2020. Sadly, we were in the middle of a pandemic, so the summit was became fully virtual. So we had to take more time to actually put that forum in place. But that's how the innovation workshop idea came to be. Because the idea remained that we strongly believed that to design applied solution to real problems, we needed to co-design those solutions. So it took almost 3 years to finally be able to host the first innovation workshop in Montreal in 2023, where strong needs for education and awareness was expressed by the members. It was then followed by the Paris Innovation Workshop that, as I mentioned, happened a few weeks ago, where we could leverage on the learnings of the first innovation workshop that happened in 2023. So the objective of those innovation workshops hosted by the expert support centers is really to provide an agile and use a proven methodology to identify concrete challenges the members are trying to address, and then co-design solution with the experts. So by sharing their expertise and creating synergies by mixing them together and having a multi-stakeholder approach. So in terms of methodology, it all starts by a series of consultations that were done prior to the workshop in itself. So we launched this year. We launched an online platform where the members were invited to share among the large priorities that are set for GPAI. What are their challenges? What are the real pain points they're trying to address? Because when the countries set priorities like fighting climate change, using AI to fight climate change, it's so broad that it's actually hard to identify what are the real challenges. So are they trying to reduce the CO2 emissions of their transport industry? Are they trying to build more greener energy grids? So we started with the consultation to identify what are their big priorities, and then to help us set the different topics that were going to be addressed during the innovation workshop. So during the workshop, we brought together experts and member representative, 2 days really active workshop together, And so in order to be able to design new solutions or roadmap to projects that would address those issues that the members, that the governments are trying to tackle. And the idea behind that is really to use those roadmaps to feed directly into the 2025 GPAI work plan. We'll see how that unfolds. And also, having that specific agile format brings also the possibility to create special projects that could be started very rapidly with the support of a few members, interested members, quite rapidly. So after the consultation, we settled on 3 different tracks for this year's innovation workshops, which were AI safety, democratization of AI resources, and environment and sustainable agriculture. So there was, of course, a lot of different priorities and challenges that the members expressed, but we had to settle on some of them, and so that's how we regrouped them in those 3 different tracks that we discussed with the 10 different teams that participated in the innovation workshop this year. To give you a bit of context, in terms of the first one, so it was the idea was really to address what are the main challenges of AI safety for the entire international community. While democratization of AI resources, it was a bit around the idea of how can we use this powerful technology to help reduce social gaps, and how can we to achieve that, and how can we reduce the barriers to develop and adapt AI tools and applications, enable more individual communities and organizations to harness the power of AI for various purposes. And the last track was about how AI, as a general purpose technology, can be responsibly harnessed to accelerate positive environmental actions and also to transform the agricultural landscape in a way that is more profitable, but also more sustainable.
So the process of innovation workshops really helped us fill these tracks with substance and to define their orientations. We will come back to this later to tell you how the workshops, what substance we created. So in addition to the GPAI experts, we also invited outside experts that the member states had suggested in order to create a rich ecosystem. As you can see on the slide, we had also representative of 4 AI safety institutes that gave a precious input. Our aim was really to be inclusive both in terms of sectors and also to listen the expectation of all countries, so be they of high, middle or low income, including also those that are not members to the GPAI, as I just mentioned. So as an illustration, you can see we had a panel that gave a global perspective on AI cooperation. So those were only a few of the states that were also represented. We had also representatives of African states, of course, of India, etc. So this diverse group of people were gathered in 10 working groups in which they could co-design projects in order to assure that these projects really answer the needs that the members, but also that the member states identify, but also that these projects are realistic and are based on the state of science. Those groups were composed of both experts, members, and their ecosystem. So the idea was really to gather this panel of diverse people in order to bring a lot of different points of view and find common solutions. Concerning the methodology, so for those who know it, we used the double diamond, so the idea of discover, develop, etc. The participants engaged in the process proactively, so they really brought their individual points of view and had an innovative mindset that fed the group and especially the projects that they were developing. The idea was really to organize the groups in a way that they can collaborate and that everybody can participate freely. The outcomes of those 10 groups were 10 projects that were not only an idea, but really an entire concept that can be put in place. So we also looked at what stakeholders to engage, what actions do we need to do to put this project in place, etc. Because the final aim was really to create something tangible and not just end up in discussions. So in order to do so, we had a structured process that Mathieu already introduced a bit. So we really based on the experts' work and the existing project that we introduced at the beginning. In link to that, we also wanted to develop a deeper understanding of the members' orientations and to have a global and inclusive approach. And yeah, as I was saying, the idea was really to turn the discussion into action. By creating this unique platform between with all members and all participants I was describing, and facilitating the discussion between them. In this process, we were able to refine the shape of the 3 tracks we had defined at the beginning, and we developed and identified priorities. So before we dive in those 3 tracks, I'm going to give you a global overview. So. Regarding safety, we tackled the need for adequate protocols and legal framework for SMEs, and we looked also into the risk assessment and the IP protection. In terms of democratization, we identified the priority of empowering local stakeholders, of making sure that AI is multilingual and also multicultural, which often goes together, and that the data is accessible in local languages, for example, through open source data and different models. And finally, for the environment and sustainable agriculture, we saw the priority of international collaboration that also takes into account local specificities and investment in research and development, because sustainability has also to be profitable, as Mathieu was saying, and to find adequate financing products. So now we're going to describe you in more detail each of the tracks, starting with safety.
Thank you. Yeah, so safety, as my colleagues mentioned, there were 10 groups. Oh. Yeah, okay, my mic is on. Yeah, there were 10 groups, and safety was the largest of the 10 groups, encompassing 5 of the groups, so being the largest track. Of course, safety can be somewhat of a broad term, especially as we continue to use it more and more. So I really appreciated the methodology that we applied, which was first starting off with our groups of asking the participants, what is safety to you? What are the main issues in perceived safety? And getting getting varied responses as well, and also diving into a deeper discussion of what does it mean for each of the members, and not only the members, but also the invited countries who are not GPAI members. And so we'll get into the results of that in just the next slide. But at the end, we were able to kind of create some common points after looking at the results, coming to the conclusion that there is indeed a demand for various types of common practices, and most of the results that we had in these 5 groups asked for some type of common practice. So we can see that this is a trend among not only all of these 5 groups in this controlled session, but also among the varied members in countries and regions, so on a global level. And also taking into account, multi-stakeholder accountability, meaning not just governments taking safety seriously, but also the private sector, academia, etc. So again, going into the fact that each group had various types of stakeholders. We can go to the next slide. So as mentioned, there were 5 groups who then presented their proposed ideas. First group proposing to provide a common evaluation framework for advanced AI systems, proposing ultimately to co-develop evaluation methods and testing environments based on active comparisons, peer review, and support of industries, academics, and governments to avoid fragmentation of evaluation, to ultimately have those common standards, no safety washing. Then into the second group, the idea that was proposed was to have an open source toolkit and verification tool that helps organizations implement context-based regulatory guidelines, building an open source tool guide being sort of the goal and verification tool for the whole life cycle of the AI system from conception to deployment, aimed at different roles and based on multidisciplinary approach, meaning taking into account engineers, lawyers, ethicists, etc. The objective is then to lead an internationally recognized certification. Then moving on to having an increased cultural representation in foundation models, the idea being to run a diagnostic through a survey for members to capture their cultural features in order to identify criteria needed in each country when considering adopting foundational models across different domains, being healthcare, transportation, what have you. Ultimately being able to identify existing data and what data remains to be collected and how to do so. The next project, the next project proposal of this group was the group that I fortunately had the opportunity to participate in alongside of two of my colleagues here, Mr. Uroš Paluga from Serbia and Mr. Joseph Phillips from the UK. This project, and I think we briefly mentioned it and we'll go into it later on how we're going to then implement these project ideas into the work stream of the GPAI experts and the work plan going forward. But this project I felt was a good example to show how we can enhance existing projects. So it dealt with the concept of fair work, having one of the leads from the Fair Work project that I spoke about in the previous slide of Future of Work, having the Fair Work project run by Funda Ustek from the UK at Oxford specifically. So this is a good way to show that we can enhance existing projects. The goal was to improve the working conditions of data enrichment workers in the AI value and supply chain by scaling up assessment methodologies and the certification process, as well as deploying AI literacy and knowledge awareness. Finally, the final project of the safety track, the proposed idea is to create the conditions for governments to spread the knowledge and use of AI safety to all citizens, having the goal of providing governments the right tools, processes, methodologies, and resources to successfully spread the knowledge and use of AI safety to all citizens. So again, focusing on that safety awareness aspect and culture and public knowledge of it all. So I will pass it then to my colleagues.
Yes, regarding the track of democratization, so many discussions were turned around data sharing, linking it with the priorities of the members. And so the idea was really to have top-down but also bottom-up initiatives in order to create incentives but also create the framework in which it is possible to regulate. Mathieu described earlier the data governance working group, which already have a few projects that tackle the challenge of democratization. And the idea is also to continue working on that subject and to develop new projects. Because in the end, the aim is really to have a fair data sharing containing data that represents minorities in order to share value. Which also links to India's efforts. And in this regard, we will focus on one of the two working groups that we had on this track. And I will give the floor to Kirti, who was in this group and gave a very good input on it.
Hi. So thanks, Marie-Fleur and Matthew and Caitlin. It's actually really nice to see you all here in India and look at what you're presenting, sitting here, having been there. So I think the context is actually quite interesting. So when this topic came up of democratization of AI resources, the perspective. So I mean, you see my picture over there. There was this intro session of, what does this mean on this project? What is happening in India? The Métis folks were also there. And where we come from, our context in India, the whole issue of democratization of AI resources is pretty key, because currently all the LLMs that are being used, all the tools that are being used are all based on data that is not contextualized for us. So coming at it from that perspective, I think was why I was quite enthusiastic about this project. But the different people who were on the project brought in different perspectives on what democratization of AI resources actually means. So when I started off thinking about it, and if we could just go to the next slide in terms of what we came up with, the objective of the session was that how do we share data for AI equity? And the whole idea of AI equity was that data shouldn't be the preserve of a few. It shouldn't be the preserve of either 5 companies or 3 countries or anything like that. So how will we create a situation where we have enough data contextualized, culturalized for something where AI can help us? And coming at it from not just the India perspective, but also from a global South perspective, to say that we don't want to be left behind in the race for AI. So what do we need to do? So when we framed the project objective, it was about the fact that it has to be, we keep hearing the word multi-stakeholder, but it has to be multi-stakeholder because data has to come from multiple places. If it's going to come from multiple places, we will have to have a way to get this data. It sounds very theoretical to say we should share data, but I'm sure many of you in this room have the experience. And I don't know if you were in the earlier session, which was on education and skilling. There was this student from Delhi Technical University who said that I want to test my algorithm, but there's no data. I have a data.gov portal the Indian government provides it, but that data is unusable. Now, if that's the basic level of problem that we have, where will we test our algorithms? How will we even develop anything new? So right off the bat, we're kind of behind in the race. So this becomes really important to say, how do we get access to high quality data? What are the mechanisms we need to create? So somebody in that panel also answered that every ministry now in India is going to have a data officer. So these are the kind of initiatives that will help to create structures, to create enablement, to say, enable the sharing of data, and especially in the case of countries like India. I won't say just India, because I think this applies to so many countries, where we want to use AI, and the word says it, AI equity. We need to use AI for all. The word democratization is very evocative in the Indian context also. We say we're a digital democracy. We talk about democratization of AI. So this word democratization we use to say AI for all. So how will this happen was really the spirit of where this project was coming from, so that the AI opportunity is more equitable and everyone can access it, either as a user or as a developer, an innovator, creator, educator, whatever you are. So so we had a format where we talked about barriers and solutions, like, what are the challenges we will face, and I just put the format up. As with all formats, very simple, but very useful to start thinking about the problem, start framing the problem, to say, what's the technical problem? The first step is, what format is this data in? Can these data structures even talk to each other? Can I share data? Can I share platforms? How will I connect? How will I create a data pool, a data lake? There's a whole issue of the technical hurdles we need to cross. Resources, who's going to pay for it? How is the change going to happen? How are people going to adjust to a new way of working? So things like, visibility, adoption. Adoption is is a word that we use everywhere now to, how do you tell people something exists and how do you get people to use it? Two very different challenges, and both are very big challenges. So what would success mean? So once we came up with barriers and solutions, even the framing of the project of the solutions was very interesting, because some of us were coming at it from a point of view of we need to look at regional languages, we need to create our own data. Like we have our data, what do you call it? In Bhashini, they have the Bhashadan, the language bank that you can contribute to multilingual context. So that's where we were coming from. But then the other countries were coming from a perspective to say, hey, why do we have to create this ourselves? Why can't we create regulation for these platforms or companies to force them to share the data, create the regulation that says, no, you have to make this available. You can't keep it in a walled garden. So for example, if let's not name names, but I think you know what I mean. So what success means is that address the uneven distribution of AI opportunities, so increase access to data. There is data that is required for public interest, and that's quite an imperative to say that if you want to work in our country, or maybe at a global level also, if there is agreement to say that things that are of public interest need to be made publicly available. There was a great concept I learned at this workshop called PET. It stands for, say that again?
Is it privacy enhancing
yes,
technologies?
Privacy enhancing technologies. The lady from Singapore was talking about it, where she said that there are ways where you can have data that you can clean it up for the PII and actually the privacy enhancing technologies. So you're not stuck to saying, oh, no, like medical data, I can't use it because there's patient privacy involved. You can remove the personally identifiable stuff. And I think Singapore did a project. So that was a good example of saying projects, GPAI projects, how do they actually get implemented, and then what can they lead to? So now we have a case study of a country actually using PET quite successfully. I think they used it for COVID, if I remember right. And they got pretty good results, even without the specific locations or specific identifiers. Data is going to result in the need for power, resources. We're already hearing about energy, things like that. So how do we bring that in? Because as we talk about democratization of AI resources, as we build these large data pools, this becomes a very real problem. And then this collaboration across borders, and how will this data sharing happen? What will those mechanisms be? Regulation becomes quite crucial. I know when we began talking of AI, we did want to say that we don't want to regulate right away because we don't know what we are regulating against. So let's not get in there and create laws that will create problems for us in the future or will stymie innovation. But very quickly, I think we're all realizing that really there is no option. We do need to think of some form of regulation. The EU has already come up with something that will form a basis for all of us to consult. And similarly for data, that what data you need to provide versus what data will be shared and how it will be shared and what format it will be shared in. These are huge, huge topics and questions. But if we don't start asking them, we don't take that step forward to what AI for, how data will be used for AI equity. So I think that's what the project was about. And I think, yeah, that's it from me.
So as I see that time is flying by, and I want to keep a bit of a few minutes to maybe answer some of your questions regarding the methodology and the process. I'll go quickly over the two projects that came out of the environmental and agriculture track. So the first one was really linked to that. So we do realize that there's synergies that can be created between different projects. So it's around the creating. How can we actually build a data sharing framework that would support the development of precision farming solutions? So it's really in the same mindset as the project that came out of the second track. And while the other project was almost, I would say, a program, because it regroups a multitude of AI tools that are intended to increase small farmers' capacity in terms of access to market, increased profitability, educational tools as well, but also crops yield, pest control, fertilizer. So it's really like, how can we build that infrastructure of AI initiative that are supporting the small farmers. I was working with that team, and one of the things that I saw that was actually very great is that this specific project brought together low, middle, and high-income countries around the same idea of how can we make the industry more attractive to younger generations. So it's a common issue that was also addressed within that project. Sort of for the sake of time, we'll continue. Yeah.
Yes, so as you can see, the innovation workshop are really an important moment to identify the member states' needs and also the ways that the projects that are carried out with the experts can answer those needs. In this regard, they constitute really a central momentum for our work. And the outcome, so the 10 concepts of applied projects that we just developed, have varying levels of novelty, precision, and operationalization. Some can feed and empower directly the working groups. Others will help us design the 2025 work plan. And yes, some other projects are kind of innovative or different, so we will need to launch them directly and separately.
And because we were working with country representative, I mean, some of those initiatives, I mean, we already know that some of the members are interested in, so we can actually we can act on them really rapidly, and so start creating projects around those initiatives very rapidly.
Yes, and these projects now that we developed are set in a specific context because the GPAI is evolving in its formats, notably. So even if the structure won't be completely transformed, the context is shifting. So this evolution also includes the expert support centers. We see this evolution as an opportunity to reinforce our strengths and in order to work directly with the members and stakeholders in order to put in place projects that really answers their needs.
Basically what we want to do is to continue to be part of that ecosystem where discussions can happen on a very small group and small scale basis with state representative and civil society and experts to address very specific problems, but also how to adapt different existing guidelines and recommendations to the specific reality of the members. We also will continue to create a new relationship with experts, and that will go through the different countries' national AI institute and now the National AI Safety Institute as well. And so we're going to build up on existing partnerships and continue to develop those synergy with your different national organizations as well. And really, the idea is really for us, our role is really to support the development of projects that are innovative and that serves your needs and the common good as well. In Paris, the 3 expert support centers have also signed an agreement to create a network of centers, and really our ambition with that is to share our knowledge and experience and know-how gained by supporting all the previous GPAI deliverables so far, and work more closely with each other to leverage our specific strength and provide a structure that can deliver applied project rapidly, but also provide a stepping stone to scale up existing projects or to adapt them, as I mentioned, to the needs of specific members. And to achieve that, we've started to build a larger network, including, as I just mentioned, the National AI Safety Institute and National Institute, as well as other international bodies and organizations and initiatives.
So our ambition is really to build upon what has been the factor of success in our 4 years of existence by reinforcing what has been our strengths. we will base upon a multidisciplinary and diverse ecosystem enriched by partnerships, so the ones we already have, and but also new ones, because we want to expand those partnerships. In this context, the members will set orientation and generate political implication, so with the civil society, industry, etc. Those orientation will translate into applied GPAI projects that will be put in place through the means of a lab, an incubator, and an academy, which I will come back to later. And there's a committee, there will be kind of a science and innovation committee that will define the work plan, so that experts can really feed the work plan and tell how to put the projects in place. So to develop upon the lab, incubator, and academy, the lab will be an instance in which the projects from a specific topic or regarding specific themes can be put in place in a safe settings where they can really prosper. Whereas the incubator will be a place where maybe more innovative or different projects can prosper with the elements they need.
And while the academy is also based on the learnings of the first innovation workshop, when we realized that there was a lot of need in terms of education, upskilling, and also how can we share knowledge and good practices, and basically get more impact out of those tools and initiative by reaching a broader audience as well.
So last year we have a slide that recaps the relationship that with the different actors we want to develop in this project of developing our ecosystem and the way we work within our environments. So with the member states, we want to work with them in order for them to give us their orientation, so that we really know what they need and that we can help them with that.
And in terms of stakeholders, we want to remain very agile in terms of what types of partnership we can build around the projects, and it can mean, I mean, the different stakeholders can be like civil society, private organizations, like in the project for the pets with the privacy enhancing technology. We partner with the company in Singapore and the Singaporean government, and also so it means. Every stakeholders should be included and could be included in those partnerships around delivering those impactful projects.
And finally, regarding the experts, we have worked with them now since 4 years, and they're really we really value their work. It's a rich input, so we want them to continue participating in the projects. Also, maybe have new experts coming in, and also help us draft the work plan, because they are the ones who know the projects the best. And so finally, if you're interested, do not hesitate to reach out. So we are here the entire day. You have our addresses on the screen. So yeah, you can contact Mathieu from the Montreal Expert Support Center, or Caitlin and I from Paris.
And as a final note, I want to like state that the innovation workshop approach is really a hands-on approach, and some of you here have participated, and you know that it is not a conference. It's really like a workshop. In the 2023 workshop in Montreal, after the first day, some experts came to me and said, that was an intense day, and we didn't realize how much work it would mean. So yeah, it is an intense methodology that can quickly provide roadmaps for applied responsible AI solutions. So yeah, thank you very much. Happy to take your questions regarding our role as the ESC, but also specifically around the innovation workshop process or outputs. We have a few minutes left, I think. Yes.
Yes, my basic question is that we are finding that there are a lot of risk, that come up with such type of technologies. For example, we are finding that, as far as the EU is coming up, they have come up with their own regulations for it, but we are finding that, that as the big tech, basically it tries to, control the system, with the, as they acquire, these new solutions. For example, Microsoft has come up with its own co-pilot, they have acquired, this chat GPT, etc., and they are investing into it, the data as such is creating a risk, because they are the one who are going to be able to train it on it. They will be able to analyze it. They will be able to, there will be some kind of an arms race, that we find, with the Meta also, coming up with its own. NVIDIA is coming up with its own chips. They are also coming up with their own AI solutions also. And in this arms race, we are finding that the data, as far as of the emerging economies is concerned, is not being analyzed, is not being able to, serve their own purpose, as far as finance is concerned, as far as, agriculture is concerned, as far as for their own, for their own economic purpose, so their people are finding themselves being left out, and we are finding also the new firms, in the data analytics also coming up, for example, Snowflake, etc., which are able to retrieve the data, which are able to forecast it in a much more, precise manner. But they are also, their solutions are extremely expensive at this point of time and meant only for these big tech, so there's no, diversification, democratization as such, and as far as the emerging economies are concerned, they are not able to harness and they are not able to use it for their own sustainable practices, for their own for their own, as far as the way forward is concerned, to be much more equitable, much more inclusive. So how can we make it much more, so that these risks can be, mitigated in the future? Otherwise, this inequality is only going to, because the market capitalization of these big tech firms is already way high, is skyrocketing, and basically there's a lot of gap between this capex and opex. Capex is going somewhere, in trillions, at this point of time, and the firms are not able to, monetize it on, especially of these. Yeah. So basically, can you elaborate on that? Yeah. Thanks.
It's an important and it's a good question, and it's also why GPAI was created, to try to tip that balance, try to regroup the different expertise and also the support of different countries to provide solutions, but also frameworks or data frameworks even, or data governance or structure, to be able to try to tip that balance and to provide to like developing countries or low and middle income countries solutions that could be that would help them harness the potential power of AI. So that's it. The idea of sharing those resources globally is really at the core of the idea of the partnership on the global partnership on AI. So all of our projects are publicly available, can be like deployed in different in any countries, and I mean, you saw in the projects that came out of the innovation workshop that this is the mindset with which we address those issues, and how can we share globally that huge potential that AI has. Sure.
Yeah, so very interesting that AI democratization actually means data democratization for AI developers, AI modelers. And that's very, very key from that perspective. And in very few sectors, we can have consolidated data, but in many sectors, like in health, data could be very much scattered also. So in such cases where the data is scattered and lying in different data formats, aggregation becomes very important. Only then the AI modelers would be able to use it. And under now the DPDP Act is in place, the privacy and other concerns are there. How do we create the structure where the data could be collected, aggregated by the responsible organizations, and make it comfortable for the people, those who have a golden data, original data lying in that place? So that structure is very, very key to put in place. And what are the thoughts about it, madam?
Would you like to answer that one?
Yes, that's what the project was about. Yes to all, I mean, to what you said, and that is the challenge. But if we don't start thinking about what's the solution, we'll just keep complaining and saying, now we can't do anything. Yes, it's a tough situation. That's reality. But that's why we have workshops like this. That's why we have problem statements like this. Defining the problem is I think, 60% of getting to a solution to say what is the problem. Okay, the data is in different formats, but what does it mean for the future? Now, if I say in India, if I look at the National Health Mission and the health stack that is being created, at some level that addresses this issue. But the change to actually move to something like that, so that that data starts getting collected, starts getting shared. Privacy is a concern. DPDP now, everybody's saying no to everything right now. But is the answer no to everything, or is the answer no to the current format, but yes to this format? So we'll have to put those guardrails in place. We'll have to find ways to collect this data. And I don't think any policymaker who understands even a little bit of AI today is unaware that data is the key. So it's the method that needs to be put into place, not whether it should be done, but how it should be done. So
yeah, the structure, so that there are few responsible organizations where the data providers are comfortable. If we provide them, we are safe.
Yeah. So how many hospitals have actually signed up for the, what is that? What is the health stack called? Is it Esanji? I don't know which board the portal is, but there's a portal. How many people have signed up? Lots have. For example, I can say in education, now that the Academic Bank of Credits has been created, every college is signing up. We are an awarding body as NASSCOM. We've signed up. Now look at that massive amount of data that will become available on education. So what can we do around with that data? So there will be, it's not necessarily about centralization. It's also about standardization of formats and frameworks. So, but that awareness to start thinking that I need to align, otherwise I lose out.
So supplementary question to this is, data is also a gold. It's also has a commercial aspect to it, and some country has a benefit about it, while some other countries have some other benefit about it. So I think that commercial aspect of the data also needs to be considered from that perspective, need to be put in place.
And not only the commercial aspect also, but also if we want to use AI for good, it's also what is the impact we're looking for. So we believe that some data sets and data frameworks should be accessible, globally. We're within GPAI, we're creating, with the help of the UK government, a net zero data space, so that if companies want to use data to achieve net zero, it is available. So it's not just a question of commercialization, but also to create impact. Yes.
Okay, my question is, we see three types of organizations or the country. It's fine, I think, yeah. So like NIST has a working group. Similarly, ISO has some kind of controls and standards. And a country like UAE is having an act, right? So everybody is having some sort of guidelines, controls, framework, etc. So while you were doing this project as a part of this initiative, so were there any thought process to assess individually each of them and identify that what kind of guidelines we should be placing, maybe converge all this and make into one or something like that? Is there any, how we should take this up?
It is part of the role of the expert support centers, is also to how can we adapt existing guidelines and solution to a specific reality of the different members or countries outside of GPAI as well. So how can we help? And that's why GPAI is really about the applied side of AI. So there's a lot of great work done external, at the OECD as an example, but also in the different committees that you mentioned regarding standards, regarding policy, but it's more about GPAI. It's more about how can we test those in reality in a specific context. So my answer to your question would be, come engage with us. We're gonna like make sure that we have with the international community access to like the best and most recent information regarding those standards or those frameworks, and how can we help you adapt them to your reality. And then also from that experience, how can we give feedback to the rest of the international community regarding those tools as well?
Totally agreed. We were a part of some of the working groups of NIST, and as well as the ISO standards for 42001. So I think, yeah, I think we look forward to connect with you.
I mean, we would like GPAI to become a test bed for those like standards and platforms and also guidelines.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Jacob George. I'm part of Invest India. I look after our AI team here with our trade ministry. My question is with regards to the agriculture framework that you wanted to build. What is important is that within developed countries, data with regards to land, agriculture, soil, etc. is far better available than with developing countries. So does your framework, if accounts for the same, and if so, how do you sort of create that framework that gives sort of different models for how different frameworks for how models should be created for different countries where data sets are, say, not available or in, say, poor structure to be worked on. So have you accounted for that, and if so, how are you proceeding?
You want to answer that question, or you were part of the group? I mean,
Thank you. It's a tough question. In fact, you know what you are really touching upon is the lack of data, lack of standard reusable data at this point in time. But you know, largely organizations like FAO and IFAD, all of them had created this pool of data specifically to measure the progress towards SDGs and other goals that we have. But I think you know, you were highlighting a point that we need to look into. The portal that Matthew was mentioning about encompasses a lot of things, but you know, this aspect was thought about, but I think as we roll out,
and it's also the interest of having a global initiative, is that how can we try to answer that question by building on the experience and the data available in other countries, and how can we use them to ideally replicate that in other like similar circumstances. But it's and again, I mean, the idea is really to share those different knowledge, and how can we build upon those different data or different initiatives that we have access to, and how can we help other countries like bridge that gap or that lack of data. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
That how can you sort them, and there will be some variance in each data. How will you tackle it?
It's a good question, and I'm not the expert in that. I mean, in that sense, but I think one of the possible solutions regarding that is to evaluate each of them depending on what are the needs we're trying to address. And with the help of the expert community, and that's the great part of the multi-stakeholder approach, is that we can try to identify which one is the best for a specific situation. But I don't think we should disregard some of them. I mean, we need to be, I mean, to fully harness the potential, we need to be also flexible in the means to achieve that. So I think it's more a question of adapting the tools to the specific situation. But again, as I mentioned, I'm not the expert in that situation. So I would say that within a specific projects with the experts that are part of that project, we can identify which one is the best for a specific situation. But maybe I don't know if you want to add something, but
I want to ask one thing also. Ma'am said that we will create a data pool. How will it be accessible to a local person, like a student or a single agency, an individual person?
I mean, in principle, the idea is that if you're going to create, if the goal is AI for equity and data needs to be accessible, then that mechanism to make it available also needs to be created. So, I mentioned the data.gov in India. So that is the place where you should be able to go and get the data you want. But right now, there's not enough available there. So we have to enable that there is enough that you can work on, because otherwise, where will you get your data from? So that's exactly the question that needs to be answered, or exactly the solution that needs to be created.
Yeah. and since we work with the principle of open science, everything like created within those projects will also be available for the global community.
I have a question. How can we ensure that use of artificial intelligence will not lead to inequality in the world? I would be more specific, because earlier there were data centers, call centers, which are now going to be run by AI-driven data centers. So there were many manual tasks like data entry and handwriting to typing, everything that used to be taken place through the human efforts. Now AI is doing this. So there is a lot of job loss. And not only in this Gen AI field, but we are having the driverless cars. We are having AI everywhere. So are we not going to lead a world where there is a lot of inequality? And another question I have is that every single artificial intelligence search is leading to a lot of greenhouse emission. So how can we use AI in an environmentally sustainable manner?
Those are two great questions. And I mean, regarding your question on inequality, I wish I had the answer to that question. I think that's one of the reasons we're all here together. And I've touched on that point yesterday during a roundtable on global collaboration around AI. I think there's a risk. I mean, AI has the potential to reduce social gaps, but there's also a risk that it can widen social gaps. I totally agree. So I think that the goal of the international community and initiatives like GPAI, like OECD, it's trying to make sure that this transition goes as smoothly as possible and has like as little dire effect as possible. But to achieve that, I mean, we need political willingness. And so we talk a lot about collaboration, but there needs to be more action. And I think it will also need to involve the big tech companies, because at the moment, most of those like large disruptive models are in the hands of a few tech giants. So we will need to get them involved in the discussion and the solutions as well. But I don't have a clear answer outside of this is what we should be like putting together. But there's a lot of representatives from different countries here, so I mean I think we've passed the message. In terms of environmental impact, it is also a very important question, and that is starting to get more and more addressed in the AI industry. I think we just saw the report about Google's increasing their greenhouse gases emission instead of reducing them like they were aiming to. We'll need to make sure that in the question of using AI to fight climate change, we need to make sure that we're not creating more harms than actually like than reducing the impact. But we also need to, I think as a global community, we'll also need to think about how we use AI and for what purposes in regard of those impacts. I think it's also in the hand of the policymakers as well to like regulate on some of those aspects. But it is clearly an important issue regarding AI. I mean, AI is not a magical solution, and we should be even more questioning the how we use AI in regards of the impact on the environment, for sure. Yeah.
I have a follow-up question on this, please. So I represent NASCOM as well, like IndiaAI, and for me, like I am a freelance journalist and an educator, media literacy educator, and what I really feel is that language is being augmented by AI. If somebody is not good at language, probably they're a robotics student, or probably they are somebody who are preparing a pitch presentation, but they don't have the expertise for it. So somehow AI is taking away the role of communicators, of creative people. We are getting AI influencers on board. So, I mean, what is the kind of guardrails that we're looking at the international level to ensure that people don't run out of jobs, like entire jobs are not wiped out, because we do understand that the industrial revolution, it replaced manual labor and brought in like in the 1920s then it led to the Great Depression, right? So how do we ensure that we do not come again to this level, the same guardrails that we had for probably diseases, like when we started vaccination for chickenpox or smallpox and we eradicated it? So how can we eradicate a Great Depression that can come in, because economies have gone into recession, there have been mass layoffs, and COVID just accelerated the entire technological divide. So just want your perspective on that, please.
We're getting into very philosophical questions, very important questions, though. Again, I'm not sure I have the answer to that question. I think the future of work working group is also studying the potential impact and how to mitigate them, and how also can we make sure that the transition towards new types of job will work properly. I mean, especially in economies like India, where there's a lot of jobs that might potentially become automated. So again, I think we need to involve policymakers, we need to involve governments into these discussions. And I've also touched upon that yesterday during the roundtable on global collaboration, is that we need to start addressing AI regulation as a social issue, more than just a business or market issue, in order to achieve that type of protection regarding the potential impact. But I don't know if there will be a session on the future of work later this afternoon, so I would invite you to come and maybe they'll have more answer than I can provide right now.
Maybe
exactly. Please do come by today in this room at 4:30 to the Future of Work Working Group session. We'd love to have you.
We're almost done. Maybe just one last question, if there's one.
I'd like to ask one question from here.
So mine is a comment. I think this data quality is like a real problem, and we have been discussing quite a lot. My position on this is data quality and usability is not absolute. It is not intrinsic to the data. It's always relative to the observer and relative to the user. In that sense, it can actually be solved. Maybe one attempt we can take at it to solve is to move away from data to data sets, and data plus metadata, which represents the context in which it is collected, for the purpose, by whom, by when, so on and so forth. This requires sort of like standards like SNOMED in the context of medical, like genome ontology in the context of bioinformatics, so on and so forth. So unless this kind of interoperability layers and standards and tools also to convert data to data sets, so that these are understandable by machines, that's a fundamental purpose we're trying to solve, right? So I just want to reflect on your thoughts on where you are with respect to dealing with this very difficult problem in some sense.
It is an important issue, and I mean, we have a few projects that touch on this issue. As I mentioned, that I mean, I think we need to work on data governance framework to address that, and also the question of gender equity is important, because we all have blind spots. So I mean, the more we are, we have a global view on how we build those data sets and who is also building them, the less the common blind spot we have. So I think, yeah, we need to work on those two things. So a better representativity within the industry, but also strong data governance framework to make sure that we reduce those risks within the creation of data and data sets. All right, thank you very much. We're happy to answer any other questions. I mean, we're still around, so we're so happy to discuss further with you. But thank you very much for attending the session.